Revealed, 8 sinister Kentucky cemetery tales of haunted graves and cursed souls awaiting discovery. The chill of the night seeped into Sarah's bones as she made her rounds at the old Central Cemetery. She often wondered how she had ended up here, hired as a nighttime security guard in a place where the dead seemed more alive than the living. These graves held stories often whispered in terror. In fact, the locals claimed that some of them stirred at night, restless and hungry for the secrets of the living. As her flashlight beam danced across moss-covered headstones, she could feel their unyielding gaze, a warning she had chosen to ignore. On nights like this, a freezing wind rustled the willow trees. Flickering lamps illuminated the way, casting long shadows that twisted grotesquely, almost blurring the lines between the living and the dead. The air felt heavy, filled with a bitterness reminiscent of tragedies long past. Then just a whisper, a woman's heartbreaking cry echoed through the trees, stealing the breath from Sarah's lungs. Surely it was just her imagination. But what if it wasn't? Earlier that evening, she'd checked in on Lily, her sweet daughter, sound asleep in their small apartment. The weight of bills pressed down like a vice, yet here she was, clinging to hope while walking the cold, graveled paths. It felt like a lifeline, a means to secure a future, but now, with the night surrounding her, something deeper, more disturbing filled her. A palpable dread that something wrong lingered just out of sight. The legends of the cemetery had been collateral gossip among the local women. Some said it was cursed, haunted by the spirits of those wronged. Sarah had brushed off the tales, smiling at the ridiculousness. But now, as the wind howled and shadows shifted suspiciously, the tales hung heavy in her mind. Late at night, stories tapped at the door of her sanity. She halted her patrol, focusing on the distant chatter that could be heard, too close for comfort. A group of familiar townsfolk huddled together, voices low and shaking. "They say the old woman who went missing, she haunts this ground," one said, wide-eyed, fingers pointing toward a grave lost beneath bushes. Panic surged through Sarah, but she forced it down, convincing herself the legends were just rumors bred from fear. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let us continue, but that night, her instincts screamed that something was amiss. The heat of anxiety burned in the back of her throat. As she turned to walk away, she caught a glimpse of the group huddling closer, their heads tilted as if in prayer, faces pale with fear. Suddenly, her heart raced against her chest because she heard it again, a haunting wail, this time closer, clawing at the corners of her mind, wrapping around her thoughts like a vulture circling prey. Lily, it seemed to call, blending the worlds of the living with the dead. That it resonated in the chilling air, wrapping around her like the grip of fate itself. The realization hit hard: this cemetery, which had once seemed a refuge from her struggles, might be entwined with her life, spinning threads of a dark tapestry she couldn't yet understand. Fear settled heavier. What if the whisper wasn't just a trick of the wind? What if she had stumbled into something destined to unveil her family's own buried secrets? As shadows crept around her, Sarah understood one thing for real: there were grave realities that demanded blood for their stories to be told, and they had her daughter's name. The cold suddenly intensified, biting deep into Sarah's flesh. Every heartbeat pulsed with fear, matching the tempo of that chilling wail echoing through the tombstones. She strained to listen, desperate to distinguish the sound from the howling wind, but it had wrapped around her like a shroud, tightening with every moment she hesitated. A flicker caught her attention, just off the path. One of the older graves, weathered and forgotten, seemed to glow faintly, the eerie luminescence contrasting the darkness that enveloped the cemetery. A knot twisted in Sarah's stomach. Shadows danced as if trying to draw her closer, luring her in with an invisible thread. Was it her imagination, or was the light pulsing, mocking her with its heartbeat? "Lily!" The voice called again, clearer and twisted. It sent a shiver racing down her spine. It was unmistakable now, it bore her daughter's name. Sarah's breath quickened. Panic clawed at her throat. The crowd of townsfolk had gone silent, faces pale against the dim light. They stood as if frozen, eyes wide with horror, nervously glancing toward the source of the sound. She forced herself to move, pushing past her anxiety. Was it truly their old tale come to life? Was the woman they whispered about flesh and blood an entity now longing for something lost? She stepped closer to the grave, that cursed glow pulling her in. The mist rolled over the ground like restless spirits writhing beneath the soil. It's just the wind, she told herself, but the screaming in her heart was louder than any rational thought. Each step felt like it anchored her deeper into a truth she could feel brewing ominously beneath the earth. As she arrived at the grave, a familiarity washed over her. The name carved into the stone sent her heart plummeting, Eliza Collins. Her grandmother's name, a ghost from a past she thought long buried. No, this can't be. Sarah whispered to herself. The candlelight glow flickered, and in that brief moment, shadows twisted into forms, figures emerging from the darkness. Their appearances were ghostly, almost dreamlike, faces marked with anguish and longing. They surrounded her, expressions of despair mirrored in their hollow eyes. The air thickened, stifling, heavy with the scent of decay. She fought the rising bile in her throat. "What do you want?" she choked out, each word a struggle. The spirits surged forward, and Sarah stumbled back. One of them, a woman with hollowed cheeks and sunken eyes, reached out a skeletal hand. "You," it rasped, voice like crumbling leaves. "Find her before it's too late." Before Sarah could respond, a shattering, blood-curdling scream pierced the night. It wasn't hers. It came from nearby, from the darkened depths among the tombs. Lily. Sarah's mind raced, horror flooding through her veins. Panic overwhelmed her so quickly that she turned on her heels, dashing back toward the path, breathless and wild. But the cemetery seemed to shift, the layout changing before her eyes. The familiar path twisted into unfamiliar turns. The graves morphed, taunting her as she ran. "No! Don't you dare take her!" she shouted, voice breaking. Shadowy forms converged around her, tearing at the edge of her sanity. "You can't escape what's bound to you," a whisper echoed ominously, drowning out the cries of Lily. Just as she thought she would be swallowed by the dark, a flickering light caught her eye again, not from the grave but a small lantern hanging on a low branch, faint and somehow inviting. Grabbing the warmth of that glow, she raced toward it, with spirits lingering just behind, watching, waiting, and then, silence fell abruptly. The lantern flickered out, leaving her in a bleak void. The wail had ceased, and she was left with the gut-wrenching question echoing in her mind: what had she awakened, and was it too late to save her daughter? As shadows gathered, Sarah knew she had mere moments to act before the darkness claimed everything she held dear. What awaited her in that inky blackness? Heart pounding, Sarah stood in the oppressive darkness, her senses heightened, every rustle seeming amplified in the heavy air. "Think, Sarah, think," she urged herself. She had to find Lily, but the shadows were alive, crackling with a sinister energy that filled her with dread. The cemetery felt like a labyrinth now, each gravestone looming ominously as if they whispered secrets. She could still hear the echoes of Lily's screams, a haunting reminder of her child's plight. Clenching her fists, Sarah forced herself to focus. She needed to find a way out, but every breath caused the cold to wrap tighter around her, gnawing at her resolve. "Lily!" she screamed into the void, her voice trembling. The only response was the echo of her own desperation. Then, a low growl vibrated through the air, a sound monstrous and primal. Something was out there, lurking, waiting. The spirits she briefly glimpsed earlier were not just lost souls, they were guards of the dark realms. What had they revealed to her? Find her before it's too late. The skeletal hand haunted her thoughts like a wraith. What if it was too late? Panic clawed at her heart, spiraling her breath into a hyperventilated rhythm. She couldn't afford to think like that. There must be a way forward, and then she saw a figure sweeping along the farthest edge of her vision, slipping in and out of the shadows like smoke. No! She barked, charging after it, driven by sheer determination. The figure darted between the graves, its form becoming indistinct, flitting like a candle flame in a storm. Lily! Sarah shouted again, urgency curling her tongue. She could feel the ground beneath her, uneven and treacherous, and yet she pushed onward. The shape vanished around a crooked tombstone, leaving behind a faint echo of her daughter's laughter, twisted and wrong. Stop! Sarah yelled, her voice cracking. With a newfound surge of energy, she rounded the stone, heart clenched tight. But the ground shifted beneath her feet, she stumbled, falling to her knees. As she regained her senses, an awful cold seeped into the earth below her, the ground appearing to pulse as if alive. With stark clarity, she realized the truth: the cemetery was alive, each grave a potential prison for her daughter. She swallowed hard, scared that the land itself could entrap Lily in a web woven from despair. Nearby, the whispers grew louder, enclosing her in a chilling embrace. Amongst the murmurs, she heard her name. Sarah, it beckoned, the tone familiar yet warped, echoing the fear that gripped her so tightly. Stay away! She yelled back, scrambling to her feet, desperation igniting her resolve. Fumbling through the ghostly mist, she searched for an answer. The lantern she had seen before flickered at the edge of her vision again, its glow stuttering as if fighting to remain alive. She dashed for it, dodging unseen hands that brushed against her arms. I'm coming, Lily. I'm coming. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the terror suffocating her. The lantern beckoned her in, a flicker of hope among the graveyard of fears. But she couldn't lose sight of Lily again. Help me. Please. Sarah cried out, vulnerability betraying her bravado. The lantern's light brightened momentarily, filling the darkness with fierce resolve. But as she reached for it, she felt the earth tremble beneath her feet. What are you? She spun around, the shadows clawing at her sides. That growl returned, more guttural this time, reverberating through her bones. The spirits surged around her, trapped in a frantic dance of warning. Then the ground split open near the lantern, darkened soil spilling forth like a festering wound. From the depths, an agonizing scream echoed, followed by Lily's voice, clear yet strained. Help me, Mommy. The world narrowed to that single plea, an unyielding knot of fear pairing with fierce determination. I want to let go. Sarah shouted, taking a step toward the chasm that threatened to swallow them both. In that moment, the shadows seemed to swirl around her, taller, angrier. It isn't yours to save. They hissed, voices merging with the wind. With limbs trembling yet fueled by love, Sarah prepared to leap into the darkness. But a cold hand clasped around her ankle, holding her back. You can't. Was there still time to save her daughter? The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of choices yet to come, as the abyss before her yawned wide, ready to swallow her whole. Would she follow her heart into the dark? Or would the forces around her wrest control of fate? The silence was deafening, believing in the unknown that she had already awakened a nightmare. What had she truly unleashed? The grip on Sarah's ankle tightened, cold and unyielding. Panic surged through her veins. Let me go. She shouted, pulling against the unseen force. The hand felt like ice, a bone-chilling reminder that something unnatural was keeping her from Lily. Mommy. Lily's voice broke through the cacophony, sweet yet laced with desperation. It pierced deep into Sarah's heart, stoking the flames of her resolve. She couldn't waste a second. Gritting her teeth, she kicked out frantically, finally breaking free. For a moment, the silence returned sweet but treacherous. Just as she steadied herself, she heard it, a chorus of whispers rising from the graves, angry and mocking. You think you can save her? You're already too late. Almost instinctively, Sarah spun around, ready to confront the darkness. Shadows flitted around her, primal and raw. Their voices slithered past her ears, drumming a rhythm of fear that echoed around the cemetery. Each gravestone seemed to lean in closer, bearing witness to her struggle. "Where are you, Lily?" she called desperately, eyes wide and scanning for any sign of her daughter. Another growl erupted, vibrating the ground beneath her. It was closer now, something lurking just beyond her line of sight. A dark, hulking shape emerged from the mist, its features indistinguishable but unmistakably menacing. As it drew near, the chill in the air thickened, crawling up Sarah's spine like the icy breath of death itself. "You should go back, Sarah," it growled, each word dripping with disdain. "You can't meddle with what's beyond your control." With the lantern flickering in her periphery, she took a step back, momentarily drawn to its glimmer. But her instincts screamed at her to stay away. The moment of hope felt tainted, as if it masked a deeper treachery. "No. You will not take her." Sarah spat, her voice ignited with newfound defiance. Each word reverberated through her, pushing back against the shadows that coiled like smoke. She determinedly advanced, her eyes locked on the gaping chasm where she had heard Lily's cries. "Mommy, I'm scared." Lily's voice, now closer, sent a surge of adrenaline coursing through Sarah. Her heart raced faster, she couldn't let hesitation stall her. With one last glance at the swirling shadows, she lunged forward, reaching for the edge of the gaping hole. It opened wider like the maw of some ancient beast ready to consume anyone who dared approach. A gust of wind swept through, chilling her to the bone. "You won't escape your fate." The figure boomed, causing the ground to rumble. Sarah clenched her fists, refusing to back down. "I will find you, Lily," she yelled, desperate to drown out the monster's growl. With every ounce of strength, she peered into the dark void. A flicker, no, a shimmer caught her eye. "Hang on, sweetheart. I'm coming." But as she leaned closer, something sharp grazed her cheek, a wisp of cold seeping through her skin. The shadows writhing behind her seemed to howl, a cacophony of dread that paralyzed her limbs. "Stop. You'll lose everything." She hesitated only for a heartbeat, her breath quickening. The stakes had become clear. She was on the brink of either saving her daughter or losing herself forever. With the ground shaking, Sarah pushed forward, heart racing against the thickening darkness. What awaited her in that abyss? Was it really Lily's voice she heard, or a deception crafted by the very forces that sought to ensnare her? Just as dread settled in her gut, she took a bold step into the chasm. The shadows erupted, a tempest swirling around her. And then it happened. The world spun as she was pulled into the void. "Mommy!" The scream echoed, faint yet piercing. The darkness enveloped her, shadowy fingers wrapping around her wrists like chains, pulling her further into the black. "What will you choose to sacrifice?" A whisper crept close, sending shivers racing down her spine. As her vision faded into the inky blackness, an unshakable question loomed in her mind: what if saving Lily meant losing herself entirely? The answer, chilling in its uncertainty, waited just beyond consciousness as the darkness swallowed her whole. Sarah felt herself falling, the icy grip of the shadows tightening around her, their whispers echoing like a relentless storm. She tried to scream, but the cold stole her voice. Darkness surrounded her, swallowing her whole, dragging her deeper into the abyss. "Mommy!" The voice reached her again, clearer now, but still distant. It resonated in her soul, crashing against the melancholy of her fading hope. She had to reach Lily. The cold pressed in, making her chest feel heavy. "I won't abandon you," she thought fiercely, pushing back against the overwhelming dread that sought to engulf her. She reached out, striving to grasp something, anything to lead her back to her daughter. Then, like a sudden spark in a darkened room, a light flickered into existence. It was a ghostly glow, shimmering softly, illuminating the edges of the exquisite horror surrounding her. She felt warmth wash over her, granting her a moment of clarity. In the distance, beyond the threshold of the night, figures began to materialize, phantoms twisted by time. They moved in silence, thrumming with an ancient energy, their faces a horrific blend of sorrow and anger. Sarah's heart thudded painfully as she recognized the expression of loss of souls trapped between worlds, yearning for something they could never reclaim. "Leave while you can," one of them murmured, a translucent hand reaching towards her. "This place demands a price." "What price?" she gasped, her breath catching at the sight of the tortured spirits. They swirled around her, their voices weaving a monotonous chant that wrapped her in dread. "It wants what you hold most dear, your love, your sanity," another spirit hissed. Their eyes, hollow and dark, locked onto her, as if trying to peer into the very depths of her soul. "No. I will save her," Sarah cried, desperation igniting in her chest. "I want to lose her too." The light flickered again, and she felt the void tug at her, a violent and insatiable force. Suddenly, the ground gave way beneath her, dropping her into a cavernous dark space. The light dimmed, leaving her disoriented and frightened, heart racing as something sharp grazed her arms, pulling her in multiple directions. "Mommy!" The voice rang out, frantic and laced with fear. Sarah turned, desperate as the echoes of the cemetery droned around her. There was more than just darkness here, it felt alive, almost hungry. Emboldened by Lily's voice, she shouted back, "I'm coming." The world around her twisted, shadows clawing at her, dragging her closer to the dark pit of despair. A sudden snap like a whip erupted behind her, making her spin around. The spirit's warnings echoed in her head. "What will you sacrifice? Stop!" she screamed. But the shadows surged forward, desperate and ravenous. In front of her, the void churned, taking form. A reflection, no, a vision of Lily, trapped in a cocoon of shadows, eyes pleading, face pale. "I'm here, sweetheart." Sarah extended her hands, heart pounding. And in that singular moment, a whisper reached her, sinister and tantalizing, "You can have her back for a price." Sarah hesitated, dread crawling along her spine like icy fingers. What price would she pay? The very thought threatened to unravel her. "What do I have to do?" she whispered, breathless. The shadows stirred around her, dark eyes watching, hungry for her answer. The weight of their stare felt almost solid, pressing against her mind as she stood at the edge of an unfathomable choice. Her lips parted, ready to speak, but the words were lost in the chaos. In that uncertain silence, she realized the true horror. Would saving Lily lead to her own destruction? Awaiting her answer, the darkness paused, the air thick with anticipation. A chill slid down Sarah's spine, freezing her in place even as the shadows twisted and writhed around her. The hesitation spread like ice, creeping into her bones as unseen eyes bore into her. She couldn't shake the feeling that every whisper, every flicker of movement was a test, a dark game where the stakes were her very soul. "Mommy!" Lily's voice broke through the disorienting haze, sharp and clear. It ignited a fire in Sarah's heart. She needed to respond. She needed to break this suffocating paralysis. But what would it cost? The air thickened with the unspoken price, a suffocating weight pressing harder with each passing second. Her mind swirled with thoughts of Lily, her laughter, her warmth, those tiny hands clutching hers. It felt unbearable. "Stop!" she shouted fiercely, the word echoing within the dark abyss. "I want to abandon my daughter." As if responding to her challenge, the shadows convulsed, swirling around her feet like serpents ready to strike. She could have sworn their whispers turned into snarls, an unholy chorus echoing her defiance. The shadows rippled, a black tide rolling, seeking a moment of weakness in her resolve. "Then tell us, what are you willing to sacrifice?" The voice was low and dulcet, slithering through her thoughts. Could she offer her sanity like currency? Or was it her very essence they sought? Darkness clawed at her edges, gnawing with insistence, and all those lost souls circled in a grim dance, their eyes pleading her to listen. "I'll do anything," she said, more to herself than to them. "Just tell me what I need to do." An icy finger traced down her spine, and she trembled at the sensation, a warning vibrating in the air. Above her, the faint light dimmed, flickering like a dying flame. "Very well," cooed the malevolent voice, filled with twisted glee. "To free Lily, you must offer a piece of your soul. A memory, one that holds weight, a treasure you cannot forget." Memories flooded her brain, the warmth of Lily's tiny hand, the joyful squeals dashed against the backdrop of a Sunday morning at the park, the scent of lilacs wafting from her hair. But one memory stood out, framed in a soft glow that dimmed the despair around it, the first time she cradled her newborn, the uncontrollable love that swept over her like a tide. "Not that one," she whispered hoarsely, but the shadows pulsed, hungry and determined. They could sense her weakness. "You will forget her laugh," one spirit hissed, a sharp grin stretching across a ghastly face. "You will forsake the warmth of her embrace. Just speak your agreement, and she will be free." Sarah's heart raced, the prospect of losing that essential memory gnawing at her. No mother should have to choose. But the echo of Lily's voice, frayed with fear, pierced through her doubt. "Is this what you truly want?" A raw feeling latched onto Sarah, squeezing her chest. "To save Lily at the cost of a shadow, at the cost of yourself?" "Mommy, please." The anguish in Lily's cry sent a jolt of electricity through Sarah. The impending choice loomed ever larger, pressing down like a vice, suffocating her will. "Say yes," the shadows rasped, moving closer, suffusing the air with an unbearable weight. "As you bargain your sacrifice, so too will we reap your fears." The flickering light dimmed lower, now almost a pinprick yearning to be extinguished. Panic mixed with determination as she hovered on the edge of a terrifying precipice. "Mommy!" Lily's plea tore through the air, striking at Sarah's heart. Could there be another way? Nothing but shadows answered, their whispers beckoning her to decide. The darkness tightened, waiting with bated breath for her answer. The moment hung heavy in the air. Suddenly, the light flared back to life, blazing against the shadows. It was blinding. Sarah shielded her eyes, heart racing as a thunderous roar filled the silence, shattering the tension. What had she just made contact with? A new presence loomed beyond the veil, shimmering with a strange radiance, bearing an energy that felt alive. The shadows recoiled. "Sarah," the voice boomed. "You face the darkness. Are you so naive to think sacrifice is the only path?" In the throes of chaos, she realized, she wasn't done fighting yet. With defiance coursing through her veins, she straightened. "I will not pay your price." She shouted into the void, but the shadows recoiled with a menacing growl, and a cold laugh echoed all around them. The game has only just begun, and as the darkness shifted, wrapping so tightly around her, panic surged within Sarah. How far would the shadows go to claim victory? "Lily!" She screamed as the lights dimmed once more, swallowing her hope. Would she become another lost spirit forever? The hunt was far from over as desperation clawed at her, whispering of looming horrors yet to be unveiled. A deafening silence fell after Sarah's defiant proclamation. The once assertive shadows stilled, elongating into impossibly thin tendrils, their gnashing whispers fading into a dreadful hush. The air bristled with a tension that felt alive, pressing down on her like a thick fog. "Do not mistake their retreat for weakness," the luminous presence warned, crackling with raw energy. It resonated, vibrant and bold, shattering the mundanity of despair. Sarah felt it surge around her, wrapping her in a cocoon of warmth that contrasted sharply with the icy chaos encircling her. "They have far darker designs. Their game? Is it a game at all?" Sarah replied, her voice steadier, attempting to project confidence despite the quake in her heart. "You're here to help." "Help," the voice echoed, leaving the word to hang like a sword over her head. "Help is a tangled web. Freedom comes with sacrifice, yes. But you don't have to play the game by their rules." Uncertainty danced through Sarah. Each word twisted something deep inside her, causing her stomach to churn. "What do you mean? If I don't accept their price, what then?" "Then you dig deeper, find the truth that binds you. You must unveil their motives, face your own fears, it intoned gravely. This darkness thrives on despair. It flourishes in silence. Speak your truth, let them hear you. Lily. Sarah called out instinctively, her voice echoing through the oppressive gloom, trembling but insistent. The darkness shivered in reaction, a momentary flicker revealing glimpses of transient figures lurking just beyond her view. These were not the lost souls enough swathed in shadows, they were the terrified remnants of hope misguided and desperate. A sudden surge of wind spiraled around her, making her stagger. In the turmoil, Sarah felt a jostling memory clawing its way to the surface, beckoning her. A moment long buried, a night filled with laughter, a sleepover where they told ghost stories, and Lily's innocent curiosity about the unseen. She had promised to protect her from fear, to keep the shadows at bay, yet here she was, battling the very force that sought to consume her. Awaken her memory. The key lies within. The radiant voice commanded, more than a mere guide. It felt like an ally steeped in an ancient knowledge long forgotten. Before she could react, the shadows surged forward again, shrieking like a storm, a frenzy of limbs and voices swelling louder, demanding her submission. You can't escape. You will forget her. Choose. Not daring to succumb, she wove through the gathering maelstrom, recalling the images of Lily, sparkling brighter than the void around her. She envisioned her daughter, clothed in innocence, eyes filled with wonder and joy. You won't take her from me. I will fight for every moment we've shared. The shadows shrank back momentarily, hissing, their malice intertwining with confounding desperation. They appeared to fluctuate, revealing the outlines of forgotten souls who had once stood where she did, frozen by fear, lost in a bleak void of their own making. Feel the weight of their despair. The voice urged her. Breathe life into the memories that hold you. Their grief can be your strength. Sarah closed her eyes, summoning every sense of love, joy, and warmth she had ever felt. She could almost taste the sweetness of Lily's laughter on her tongue, a balm amidst the frigid dread. I won't bow to you, she screamed, her voice growing stronger in the remorseless storm. I will remember. The shadows recoiled, now shrieking in rage, morphing into terrifying shapes that flickered in and out of existence. The cacophony intensified, each unearthly wail drowning her out until she was enveloped in an ocean of despair, but just as she felt herself teetering back into that darkness, the radiant figure pulsed, fueling her resolve. Hold on to truth. Your memories are a weapon. They cannot be stripped from your heart. Tension sparked within her chest, lit anew by the fondness she shielded. Remember, they must remember. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from within Sarah, sending the shadows spiraling back, as if they had been caught in a surge of holy fire. The dark murmurs transformed into tormented shrieks, the air quaking with their rage. With daring ferocity, Sarah raised her hand toward the shadows. You will not take her away. The shadows writhed furiously, enacting their furious dance. In that moment, the chaos transformed the display not just of fear but fury, clashing against the unyielding light that now channeled through her, but in that blinding flash, an image broke through. It wasn't the image of her joy. It was relevant, threatening the reality of a horrible truth flickering before her. A secret she buried, a piece of her past that connected her deeply to the darkness. Her heart hammered. What was she harboring? As vicious cries erupted, they morphed into one haunting voice, the shattering echo of a long-forgotten memory, and it called her by name. Sarah, and there, just beyond the veil, shrouded in unease, a figure lurked, an echo of another life she had locked away. The horror intensified as the shadows twisted around her, developing an urgency, eager to unveil the buried fears. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. What would the revelation bring? Another step into the unknown awaited her. The moment hung in the air, thick with the promise of dread. The haunting voice echoed again, insistent. Sarah, it felt familiar, a melody she couldn't quite place. The shadows trembled around her, pressing closer, vengeful tendrils weaving into the fabric of her memories. She stepped forward, heart racing like a caged beast. The darkness at her back twisted and howled, a chilling reminder of what she was risking. Who are you? What do you want? She shouted, her voice barely masking the tremor within. The figure slowly emerged from the swirling blackness, its form fluid and shadowy. A face flickered into view, a young girl with long, dark hair and wide, sorrow-filled eyes. "I'm sorry," the girl whispered, her voice breaking under the weight of unspoken truths. "It's all my fault." Every pulse of the shadows felt like a tightening noose around Sarah's throat. "Lily." She gasped, the name slipping from her lips like a gust of wind. "Is that you?" The girl hesitated, a wraith caught between worlds. "You shouldn't have come here, it's too late," she murmured, and the shadows swelled around her as if mocking her fear. "Too late for what?" Sarah cried, desperation clawing at her throat. "What happened?" As her daughter's figure flickered, a chorus of anguished cries sliced through the gloom, rising with a vengeance. "Finish it!" They screamed, their voices melding into a hellish choir. "She has to remember. It's what she's hiding." Terror pooled in Sarah's stomach. There was something deep and painful lodged in her heart, a truth she had concealed for far too long. Memories started flooding back, fragments of flickering lights, strange symbols scratched into the earth, whispers in the dark, and the face of a woman she had tried to forget, a woman shrouded in anger and despair. "Don't listen to them," Lily begged, her small hands reaching out as if to touch her. "They want you to relive the pain. You can't let them win." The shadows recoiled at Lily's words, their fury palpable, rippling through the air like static charged with electricity. "Relive it," they screeched in unison. "You know it's true. Remember, Sarah, the truth will set you free." "Stop!" Sarah shouted, her mind a maelstrom of fear and anguish. "I want to let you take her." Heart pounding, she grasped a memory, a snapshot of a summer day, laughter echoed in the sunlit air, memories painted with joy. "You have to remember what happened. You have to see it." "Help me," she whispered, looking to Lily through the billowing shadows. "Help us." The girl's face morphed into a mixture of urgency and fear. "I'm here, Mom. Just focus." With a deep breath, Sarah summoned the love she had buried deep beneath the layers of grief. Images flashed in her mind, her sister's frantic cries, the blood on the porch, then chaos erupted. The darkness roared, pushing against her resolve, trying to drown her in its whispers, but she held tight to the memory, feeling its energy grow stronger in her grasp. "You will not take her." She screamed into the maelstrom, the force of her voice creating cracks in the dark. "Relive the truth." The shadows yelled, their forms twisting and writhing like a congregation of lost souls. "You cannot escape what lies in your heart." The wind howled as memories broke free, pouring forth like a waterfall. Sarah could see it all, the nights spent clawing at the walls of sanity, the argument that shattered their family, and the forms hiding frail beneath the overgrown lawn. Every moment of grief surged forward like monsters released from the abyss. Her chest constricted, the weight of the truth pressing down. Then, there a fleeting image of her sister. Her face, once full of life, now a ghostly reflection lit by shadow. Sarah, the sound of anguish clawed at her throat, choking her. This time, she couldn't turn away. She must confront the past. In that fractured second, a flicker of recognition passed between her and the figure that loomed in the shadows. What happened that night? She gasped, determination igniting within her. The darkness recoiled, the shadows murmuring like angry wasps. Every lost soul around her shrieked, screaming for silence, but Sarah wouldn't succumb. "Not now. Tell me. I need to know, I have to remember." The air thickened with oppressive force as the loudest wails echoed around her. "You will know, you will die." Just before she plunged deeper into torment, the glow surged, and she locked eyes with her daughter. "Fight it, Mom. Break the cycle." And just like that, the shadows began to unravel, twisting away into the crevices of despair they emerged from. Yet, the looming truth still hung heavy in the air. The reality behind her fear had yet to be unearthed. What happens now? Sarah asked, her voice quivering but firm. All at once, the echoes fell silent. Knowledge was just out of reach, and Sarah stood trembling in the wake of sinister anticipation, surrounded by the chilling remnants of secrets buried deep. But something stirred in the deeper dark. Sarah, the truth is coming for you, the shadows whispered, an ominous promise wrapping around her like a shroud. What awaited her beneath the surface was still a mystery, but she could feel the ground shaking around her, the fabric of their reality thinning. Did she dare to pursue it, or would the darkness claim her first? The ground rumbled beneath her, a visceral reminder that the shadows were not just a figment of her imagination. Fear was a living thing, crawling up her spine, and panic could almost be tasted in the damp air. Sarah stared into the deepening darkness as the shadows flickered, writhing like serpents eager to consume her whole. "Lily," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I'm scared." "Don't be," the girl urged, her spectral fingers brushing the air. "You have to find the truth. It's the only way to set us all free." As if summoned, a piercing scream erupted from the heart of the shadows, filled with anguish and torment. The dark churned louder, drowning out her thoughts. She will face the darkness. She must confront the memories. The chorus shouted, their voices clawing at her sanity, layering anguish over despair. "No!" Sarah screamed back, clenching her fists as if she could physically push the darkness away. "You won't take her from me." The shadows seemed to pause, their malicious energy holding its breath, giving her a moment of clarity amid the chaos. Then a memory, vivid as a lightning strike, surged in her mind. A backyard barbecue. Laughter, sun-drenched faces, her sister's face, bright and full of life. The warmth imprinted in her heart, a fleeting glimpse of paradise before the storm arrived. Suddenly, it cracked. All at once, fragments shattered her defenses. A flicker of her sister's shattered smile, the echo of splintered glass, and the sound of laughter that twisted into a scream. That day was supposed to be different. It felt safe, innocent. But it ended in screams, blood, and a void that consumed everything. "Sarah, fight!" Lily cried, desperation coating her voice. "You have to dig deeper. Deeper." Panic consumed her. "What if I can't? Trust me. Remember our family." The faces in the photographs, the truth behind the silence. With a flash of determination, Sarah shut her eyes, pushing through the physical hurt, the fear gripping her heart. She dove deeper, seeking the core of her paralyzing dread, where the truth awaited. Images collided, her sister arguing with a figure half hidden in shadows, voices intersecting, clashing. Gritting her teeth, Sarah felt the darkness tightening around her like a vice. "What's wrong with you?" she screamed into the void. "What do you want?" Yet even as she shouted into the abyss, the shadows surged ahead. Wisps moaned and twisted, pulling at her consciousness, threatening to drown her in their despair. The world around her felt no longer solid, shifting like sand beneath her feet. Everything, the chilling whispers hissed. "You must pay, you must remember the cost." An ancient voice cracked through the blackness, stirring up memories scabbed with hurt. "We all pay," it purred wickedly. "You need to remember." With a surge of defiance, Sarah opened her eyes. "You want me to remember? Fine. I remember." She could see flashes now, a frantic chase in the woods, something lurking, eyes watching, and horror pouring over her like rain. The shadows recoiled for an instant, as if they had been slapped. "No, you can't scare me anymore," she screamed, light pushing back against the encroaching dark. "You wanted this? Then let me see it. Let me face the truth." The shadows twisted in protest, writhing like snakes caught in a net, each flicker revealing the haunted faces they held captive. The oppressive energy rose, melding into a cacophony of rage and despair, swirling like a hurricane. Then, silence. The darkness hesitated, allowing Sarah to breathe, if only for a moment. She felt buoyant, lighter, unshackled. But a chilling realization settled in: the shadows weren't waning, they were regrouping. You think you've won? They taunted, voices now echoing like distant thunder. You've only scratched the surface. The truth is deeper than fear. The past will come for you and it will take everything you hold dear. A new figure emerged, a dark silhouette against the chaos, looming ominously, filled with equal parts dread and despair. Mom! Lily shrieked, reaching toward her, and then it all exploded in a blaze of desperation, a truth she was unready to face, yet perilously drawn toward. The entity surged forward, a dark tide ready to swallow her whole. Seize her, the shadows murmured. Take everything. At that moment, Sarah realized she had crossed a threshold, and there would be no turning back. The question lingered in the air, thick and suffocating: would she emerge from this nightmare with her family's truth in hand, or would the darkness drag her into an endless void? Her heart thundered painfully against her chest, a cacophony that echoed the dread swirling around her. What awaited her, just beyond the horizon of horror? The darkness pressed in, suffocating, but Sarah felt a spark igniting deep within her, a simmering resolve that surged like a wildfire. The shadows writhed, inching closer, but she could see now, flickers of other faces, kindred spirits trapped within their own despair. They were scared just like her, victims of a relentless cycle of fear. Lily! She shouted again, fierce and wild, determination threading through her voice. The name broke through the shadows like a ray of light. As if her call acted like a beacon, a shudder ran through the dark forms surrounding her. But she wouldn't stop there. Each step she took felt like reclaiming a piece of her spirit, pushing back against the gnawing terror. She had faced too many shadows tonight to back down now. The shapes around her contorted in an unholy frenzy, a storm of anger brewed amongst them, swirling and swirling, but Sarah remained steadfast. In that moment, she remembered a lesson taught by her mother, a mantra she often recited. Courage is not the absence of fear, but choosing to act despite it. The words echoed in her mind, intertwining with her love for Lily. I choose to love, she proclaimed, flinging open her heart to embrace the light. I choose to remember. For the first time, she turned the energy of her memories into a weapon. Scenes flooded her mind, Lily laughing under the sun, painting pictures of dreams and joy, days filled with kisses and lullabies, moments of unwavering love that turned the darkness into mere shadows. The memories were powerful, golden resources fueling her strength. The shadows roared, an angry choir clamoring against her newfound light. They couldn't stand it, the light was unrelenting. Each smile, each giggle poured forth, filling the void around her, insistent and alive. The darkness shuddered, retreating further, unable to hold the ground against the warmth radiating from Sarah's heart. Stop! They hissed, every word wrapped with hatred. You think you can escape what you owe? The price must be paid. No. She countered, defiant. You don't get to dictate who I am. You don't own this memory. Surrounded by flickers of crowded hope, she stepped forward, hand outstretched, reaching toward the vision of her daughter, still flickering like a candle in the storm. Lily! I'm coming! As she surged toward the light, the ground beneath her shook violently, echoing the fury of the shadows. A dark vortex opened, threatening to swallow everything whole. Just as she was pulled toward the depths, she felt the lantern she'd seen earlier returning, its flickering glow illuminating the chasm. Use it! The voice of the radiant presence rang out, urging her. Let the light guide you. Speak your truth. With every ounce of courage, Sarah lifted her chin, lips trembling but resolute. I am not your prisoner. She yelled, words crashing into the echoes. I will honor my memories. I will love my daughter fiercely. You think you can silence our joy? You're dead wrong. The shadows shrieked howls that mimicked both fury and despair as the ground beneath them trembled. The light she channeled now exploded in brilliance, cascading in every direction. The dark, thick tendrils curled and hissed, retreating under the effusive glow. She could feel the intensity of the shadow's wrath, but it couldn't overcome the love fueling her desire to fight. Lily! She cried, pushing forward through the white-hot light. "Hold on. I'm almost there." A final surge, and she reached out, her fingertips brushing against that radiant warmth. In an instant, everything shifted. With a flash, a surge of understanding raced through her, the tether between her heart and her daughter solidifying as if the universe itself welcomed them back together. The shadows shrieked in one colossal outburst of agony. "You cannot escape. You're past your truths, they will claim you." But Sarah felt the binding power dissipating, that once feared grip loosening as her love enveloped the void. She squeezed her eyes shut, whispering a prayer into the cosmos. "I will not let fear dictate my story any longer." And just like that, the world shattered around her. Light erupted from within, fierce and eternal, like a phoenix in flight. The shadows recoiled, twisting into spirals before imploding in an explosion of dark energy. The shrieks faded. The air cleared. Like the birth of dawn chasing away the night, the cemetery morphed around her grave markers stood enlightened, tilted against a backdrop of brightening sky. She opened her eyes to find herself standing on solid ground, breathless and trembling, the warmth of the rising sun washing over her, then she felt a small hand wrapping around hers. "Mommy." Lily's voice rang with an innocence that felt like home. "Lily." Tears streamed down Sarah's cheeks. The shadows had lost. The memories of despair and sorrow faded into distant echoes. She pulled her daughter into a fierce embrace, almost afraid to let go. "I thought I lost you," she sobbed, cradling Lily tight, heart swelling with relief. "You didn't," Lily replied, her voice light, filled with assurance. "You found me." Watching the remnants of the dark dissipate, Sarah nestled Lily deeper into her hold, savoring the bond that had triumphed over the nightmarish shadows. They stood in the precious warmth of the new day, ready to face whatever would come next, hand in hand, a fierce duo against a world now illuminated by love. With a newfound strength, she looked toward the horizon, knowing that together, they could conquer anything. It was time to walk away from the darkness, leaving behind whispers of fear and uncertainty, and embrace a future that held nothing but hope. Every moment meant something now. Every breath taken included a lesson learned, but as they turned to leave, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that shadows would continue to linger, waiting for a lapse, a moment of vulnerability. She didn't know what would come next, but one thing was for certain, she would always fight for her daughter no matter the cost. That as Sarah and Lily faded into the morning mist, hope ignited in their hearts, shimmering in the sudden silence, a promise of resilience echoing within the grounds of the cemetery, a sacred ground reborn. So now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, it makes a difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this powerful finale. Your support is everything.